Hello, my name is David Leonard, and this is a oral presentation for CIT Capstone at Columbia State. The internship I chose for this class was Mental Liberation Studios, a studio that focuses on website creation, content creation, marketing, and video games. I actually used to work for these people before, and I actually had a class very similar to this back at Becker, and they were actually the same people I did an internship for in order to complete that class. Um, Without further ado, and my position at this company was I did worked on the databases and websites of our clients as a part of our subsidiary Orion Online. So, some of the strengths and weaknesses of our company are that we are very small. As a result, we're not able to land as large contracts as there are only like three of us. However, we don't really have a toxic work environment either, so we don't have to worry about people doing dumb things or annoying each other because they can't get their job done along or anything along those lines. So it's a very a tight team, even though we're also very small. Hopefully, once we get a larger contract, we can try to bring in some more people. Um, so my strengths and weaknesses coming into this was, other than the fact I already knew them, was well, thankfully I my biggest hurdle, my weakness was my lack of confidence. This was the first time, although I worked in the designing and writing portion of my career while my time there, I never actually did any proper coding. So having to learn things like JavaScript again, JavaScript was a bit difficult. In case, which JavaScript is apparently kind of like Java and C script had a child. And the reason why, thankfully, I didn't have as much of a problem with C Sharp or C Plus though, as they are very similar to Java. For example, importing is pretty much the same. Just swap out import with a different term. You still got your ints, doubles, strings, booleans. You all list them the same way as you would in Java. Um, so those similarities allow me to to catch up very quickly, which I could see why the school went with Java now. Um, Probably my biggest challenge though was time management and overcoming my lack of confidence. As I takes a little bit longer for me to pick up on things. As a result, that gets in the way of my confidence. But thankfully, towards the end of the studio, I've gotten more confident with working on websites on my own without worrying about ruining anything. And then when it came to time management, I have a part-time job at Publix, so that would sometimes get in the way of me getting working on the internship. Thankfully, during my first week, I got it pretty lucky as I didn't have a lot of hours that week at Publix, so I was able to just stuff it full of stuff it up to 66 hours worth of work um, during my time because the stars kind of aligned there when it came to just focusing on the internship and catching up hour wise. Um, the some skills that I know I probably wish I would have learned while I was here at Columbia or at high school, but thankfully I already did at Becker was teamwork. One thing you're going to be running into work when it comes to software, apps, coding, you're going to be working with some team of some sort, and that requires a lot of communication. Now, thankfully, I already had this skill thanks to Becker College and my previous work at this studio with learning how to work in a team environment. However, I feel it's something that's kind of undervalued at a lot of schools, and I feel they could have done better with uh, integrating that into the curriculums. Like, I wish there was a class that focused more when it came to the group project side of things when it came to app development and software. Like having us work together in larger groups to create a larger project towards the end of the year, like we did with at Becker with Game Studio. Um, Otherwise, I feel the school gave me exactly the skills I needed to learn when it came to coding specifically, and I'm going to get into that. And the reason why is when you get into a job, it isn't like when you're learning something new where a professor wants you to do something in a very specific way in order to pick up a skill. Here's the exact opposite. You have all the skills, and now you have many different avenues when it comes to pursuing getting a project done. And what can make this daunting is that not every avenue you could take would be the most efficient way to get a project done or guarantee the best product. Um, so as a result, there is a lot of planning involved on the job space environment. For example, with whenever me and Lauren were discussing creating a new code for a website, we'd go in. We'd write a document that would go over everything that needed to be implemented and figure out what kind of code we would need for each. That way, we could streamline the process a lot quicker. So there's a lot of planning involved, which it helps fix the issues of trying to figure out what would be the most efficient method. Um, I'll tell you, just looking at what else my notes here. How can so in order to determine these avenues, of course, I need to simply look over my skills, remember what was taught in class, and just simply apply it to the avenue, what I think would be the best avenue. It's not that hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, you could get it wrong at some point, but you know, at some point during a job space, you will fail, and as long as it's not catastrophic, you don't really have anything to worry about. Just don't do it too often. Um, Now, what my characteristics for what would be my ideal internship uh process? Wait, what characteristics would the ideal intern? Almost read that question wrong. I'm sorry. What would be the characteristics would the ideal intern possess to excel at the workshop? Well, one is the drive to learn. You're going to be picking up a lot of new skills quickly that are specifically to that company. That comes to things like how one does meetings, how you clock in, how you clock out, how you're supposed to communicate, with your coworkers, the lingo, as well as the kind of lingo you may use when it comes to referring to different processes. Um, Another thing I'd say you have to have when it comes to being an intern, especially if it's an unpaid intern, is not being afraid to fail. You're just starting the job, and something can and will go wrong. And finally, just do your best. Be willing and still treat it like it's an actual job. Because if you impress your employers enough, they might end up hiring you in the end. Um, so has this internship solidified my career choice? Well, game development will always be my first love, and it will be something I'm always going to pursue. But with these programming skills under my belt, I could have a better chance at supporting myself in the world when it comes to programming, as there are a lot more jobs that would require a coder these days. On top of that, it could also even increase my chances of getting into the game industry. Which means, as I'll now have programming skills to help the team. Um, Whether or not I think this changes anything, I don't think it does. I think my plans are still going forward regarding my career choice, trying to become a coder and app developer, so that way I can get a more proper job. Otherwise, I think this is it for my oral presentation. You have a good day or night, depending on when you're watching this. And yeah.